Alright my friends, so far I can say we have covered the basics like creating, reading, analyzing, changing, sorting, copying and even combining lists in Python, and that was actually only the foundations. And of course we don't want to stop at the basics, we want to push more to learn advanced techniques on how to deal with the data structure with the list. So we have to learn how to iterate through our list, and we're gonna learn the concept of Iterable and Iterator. We're gonna learn how to do real data transformations, how to filter our data. So let's start with the first topic, how we're gonna iterate through our data, our lists. Alright, so far we have learned we can go and create like a container of items, like a list, and behind the scenes Python gonna go and create an object with the type list. And we could have of course other objects like the tuple, set, dictionaries, and the primitive objects like the string, integer, boolean, and so on. Now once you build such a container, we have learned how to deal with it, like how to read, how to change it, how to order it. So everything is fine and we are happy. So where is the issue? Well, the thing is everything, all the values, all the items will be stored inside the memory, and this, my friend, gonna be a big issue if you have a lot of data. That means you're gonna be taking a lot of space in the memory, and actually most of the cases we don't need all the data that we have in the containers, we just need like a subset or few data. So now in Python, in order to overcome this issue, we have another type of objects called iterators. So the iterator on the other hand will not store everything in the memory, so it's not like container or box, it's more like a machine that's gonna produce values. So it's gonna produce items one by one as long as you are asking for it. So now the question is how we're gonna work with it. Each time we have to ask the iterator for the next item, and the iterator gonna answer with the next item and move to the next one. So that means we cannot jump around, we have to keep pressing next until it's completely empty. It's exactly like the same iterator that you have in the for loop. And now of course the question is how we can create this type of object, the iterator. Well, we have a lot of functions in Python to create them, like the enumerate, the zip, reversed, map, chain. All those functions and stuff can help us to create iterator objects. And of course you can change the type of the object. So if you have an iterator, you can make it any other type like a normal list. So now if you ask why do we need iterators, well, mainly we have three reasons. The first one, we need it in order to build a loop. So for a for loop we always need iterator to go through all the items to repeat specific block of code in order to do something. The second reason is we use it in order to save memory. So if you have a lot of data, you don't want to store everything inside the memory, we use iterators. They're gonna stream the data one by one, and this is gold for big data streams. You don't want to put millions of rows in the memory, you just want to process them one by one as they come in. And the third reason is actually for speed and flexibility. So you can build a real pipelines that gonna go and transform the data on the fly without having them to be stored somewhere. So iterators are amazing and modern, and they can help you in a lot of big data use cases, and as well they save you memory. Alright, now there are like two words that you might hear a lot in Python, iterable and iterator. They might sound almost the same, but they are not. As we learned, an iterator, it is an object that can help us in order to do the iteration. So it is the process, it is the engine, the machine that's gonna help us to do the iteration. But in the other hand, the iterable is the thing that you can loop over. Like for example, the list, we call a list is iterable because it has items and we can loop through that. And as well the string values, all of those stuff, we call it iterable because it is something that we can loop over. But if you have an integer, even a big number, or let's say true and false, the boolean values, they are not iterable. So they don't have like independent items that we can go through. So again, iterator is the thing that's gonna help us to iterate, and iterable is anything that has a sequence of items. It's like a container that we could use it in order to loop over. Alright, now enough theory, let's go and practice. Again, we have our list of letters. Now we want to loop over the items, and it is very simple. So we're gonna say for L in letters, then double points. So that means I want to loop over our list. And then we're gonna say simply, for example, let's go and print the item. Now, if we go and execute it, so look at this, Python iterated through all the items of our list and printed it. So again, this is possible because the list is iterable. So that means I can loop over our list. Now, of course, if you go and make any like big number instead of it and execute it, you will get an error where Python gonna say, well, integers are objects that is not iterable. So you can do that only for lists. Now, of course, you might say, why do we need to do those stuff? Why I have to loop over my list? Well, actually, we use it in order to do some transformations. Like, for example, I don't want to have a lowercase values. I would like to have it as an uppercase. So I'm gonna go and transform each string value using the methods upper. So if you do that and execute, you will see now my items are actually in uppercase. So we use it in order to do some nice transformations. And now you might say, okay, but I would like to store this new result in a list. Well, for that, we're gonna go and create a new list. At the start, it's gonna be empty. And now what we're gonna do, each new value gonna be appended to this new list. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go inside the loop and we're gonna say new list dot append. So I want to add something to my empty list and I would like to go and add the items, but actually I don't want to add only the L. I would like it after it gets transformed. So we're gonna add the upper, and now what we can do, we can go and print actually the new list. So let's try this out. Now you can see each step how our list is getting bigger and bigger. So at the first iteration, we have only the first item, the A, then we append to it the B, and all of them are uppercase. And in the last iteration, we appended the last item, the C. So now you have nice understanding why we iterate, right? We iterate through the original list, we do some transformations, and maybe at the end, we store it in another list. So this is why we loop through a list. Okay, moving on to the next step, we have an amazing built-in function in Python called enumerate. It's gonna take any iterable like a list or string value, and it's gonna give you back both of the value and the index. Normally, as we loop through the for loops, we always go through the values, but there are scenarios where you need actually not only the value, but as well its index. So if you use enumerate, it's gonna return two things: the position number of the item, the index, and by the way, as a default, it starts by 0, but you could specify when it should start. So you could choose where it starts, and the other thing that it's gonna return is the value itself. So let's try this out. We're gonna say enumerate, and then we're gonna pass to it our iterable value. It's gonna be our list, the letters. And now, of course, nothing gonna happen if you don't print. So let's go and do that. Now, as you can see in the output, we are getting an object enumerate. So once you see those weird numbers, that means this function is actually returning iterator. So again, this function accepts an iterable like the list that you have here, and it returns in the output an object iterator that we could use in order to loop through. Now, of course, if you want to see the content of this iterator, what you can do, you can convert the data type to a list. So now look at this, our list has now more information. We have a number for each item, and this is the index number. And if you say, you know what, I don't want to start from 0, I would like to start from 1. So you can say start, and now you define your own number. If you go and execute, now look at this, we start from 1 this time, not from 0. So this is really nice, but the thing is, we don't use it like this. We use the iterator in order to build a for loop. So we're gonna say for, and now this time, since we have two informations, two values, we have to assign two variables for this loop. The first one gonna be the index, and the other one gonna be the value. So before we used to have only one variable because we just loop through the values, but now we have two informations, the index and the value. And then the same thing, we're gonna use the operator in, and then we're gonna say enumerate, and we're gonna give it the letters. And I'm gonna stay with the defaults where we start from 0. So now double points, and now the question is what we're gonna do with it. Well, I'm just gonna go and print it. So I'm gonna say print index and then the value. So I'm printing both of the variables. Let's go and execute it. Now, as you can see, we have 3 iterations because we have 3 items, and we don't have only the values, we have as well the indexes. So that's why we say enumerate is an iterator, because we can use it in our for loop in order to iterate through the values. Now you might say, why do we need this actually? Why do we need the index? Well, the thing is, if you have a long list with a lot of values, and let's say that you are iterating and you found a bad value. Like for example, let's go and remove this value here. So we have now an empty string, which is not really good. And for the others, we have a value. So if you go and execute, you can see in the output immediately, okay, we have here an issue and I know exactly where this issue is. So it is at the position number 1. So I use it a lot if I'm analyzing my data to find any issues, and it's gonna help me to find exactly where this issue is in my data. All right, moving on to the next one. We've done this already. We have the reversed. So if you use this built-in function, the reversed, and you pass to it an iterable like the letters, and then if you go and print it, by the way, as you can see, those functions that could be used for the iteration has for me like different color. So the theme here showing like light blue. It's not green like the print, right? Because this one could be used for the iteration. So now if you go and execute it, now look at this at the output, we have again those weird numbers and stuff. That means this function is returning an object iterator and I can use it in my for loop. And of course, if you want to see the content of this, you're gonna use the list. So we're gonna change the data type, and now we can see in the output our reversed list. Now again, we can go and use it in the for loop. So reversed, and then the letters, double point, and we can print our items L. So if you go and execute it, we're gonna have 3 iterations, but it starts from the end and ends with the start. So now finally we have now understanding why the reverse gives us those weird numbers, because it is actually an iterator that could be used in our for loop. So now moving on to another function that we encountered that as well gave us weird numbers. So let's go and make another list, the numbers 1, 2, 3. Now remember the zip function. So we use it in order to pair 2 lists. So letters and numbers, and as you can see, the color of this function is again the light blue. Again, depends on the theme that you are using in your visual code. So if you go and print it, you're gonna get the weird number, but if you go and change the data type to a list, then you will see the content. So now you can see we have combined the 2 lists in one, but we have paired all the values. Now, of course, we can go and iterate through those items like the one that we have in the enumerate, because here we have pairs. So in order to loop through 2 items, you need 2 variables. So for L and N in zip, letters and numbers. Let's go and remove this over here. So I'm combining both of the lists, and now I'm gonna go and iterate through them. So we're gonna say print L and N, so the letter and the number. Now let's go and execute it. Now look at this, we are iterating at the same time in 2 lists after using the zip function. So A comes from the first list and 1 comes from the second list. B is the second item from the first list, 2 is the second item from the second list, and so on. So this function is doing actually 2 things for us. It is combining 2 lists, and at the same time it is returning a really nice iterator that we could use in order to iterate. Okay, again we have a list of letters, and as you can see the values are lowercase. Now sometimes you want to go and do some data transformations. Like for example, I would like to go and change the case from lowercase to uppercase. Okay, so how are we gonna do it? We need to apply this function for each item. One solution could be like, let's go and build a for loop in order to repeat the same task for each item. But we have in Python way smarter solution. We could use the help of the function map, where you give it 2 things: the function that you want to repeat for each item, and as well the iteratable, which is the list of letters. So now if you pass those 2 things for the function map, in the output you will get your list, but after transforming it. Well, the output will not be immediately a list, it's gonna be an object called map. So it is like an iterator that you could use it in your for loops, but of course you can change the data type to a list anytime. It is very simple. The map gonna take your list and apply the transformation that you define for each item. All right, so we have a list of lowercase letters, and I would like to make it an uppercase. Now, in order to transform all the values, we're gonna go and use the function map, and here we need 2 things: the transformation, how we gonna transform the data, and as well our data. So here the transformation gonna be like this. I'm gonna say go and use the method upper. So in the class string there is a method called upper. You have to go and use this method for the transformation. Then after that you have div to give it our data. So our data are gonna be our letters. So now, of course, to see something in the output, let's go and print it and execute. Look at this. We have again these weird numbers. So that means we have an object, an iterator. In order to see the data, you have to change the data type list and then execute again. Now, perfect. Look at this. We have the list of letters, but everything in uppercase. So with that, I have transformed my data in one very simple line. So it is not that hard. Let me give you another example. Let's take like a list of numbers. And the thing is, my numbers are actually in string values. Well, this is not really cool. I would like to go and transform each of those items to a number. So we have to go and change the data type. And for that, we could go and use the map function. So now what is the function? All what you have to do is to say ent. So I want to see the data as a class integer. And then we're going to give it our data. So let's try this out. But of course, we have to cast it as a list. And as well, we have to print it. Now let's go and execute. So now we have a list of numbers and not anymore a list of string values. So as you can see in this example, I didn't even use any method or function. I just specified the class type. And I said I would like to see the numbers in the class type integer. But if you need, of course, a specific transformation like here the upper, then you have to mention it in the function. Let's have one more example. Let's say that I have a list of names, like for example, Maria, and I'm gonna go and add few bad spaces left and right. The next one could be John, and maybe at the end we have space. And the last one gonna be Kumar, where we have on the left side a white space. Now this looks really bad. We have to clean up the data by removing those unnecessary spaces. So for that, remember, we have to use the method strip. So now again, in order to transform our data structure, we're gonna use map. So here we have to specify the method. It's gonna be the strip. And of course, the question is, where do you find the strip? Well, the same thing. We find this method inside the class string. So it is like the upper. I'm telling here again, use the strip methods that you can find inside the string class. So with that, Python knows what to do. And of course, we have to apply it on the data structure names. Same thing. And as well, our print. So let's try this out. Perfect. Look at this. We just cleaned up our data and we don't have any more those unwanted spaces. So now one last thing. Let's say that I would like to use the map function in the for loop. So I don't want to print it actually. I would like to go and iterate through the values. So we don't need to cast it actually to a list. All what you have to do is to say for n in and then the map function. Since the output is in iterator, we could use it for the for loop and we can say print and then an n. So let me just highlight it and execute. Now look at this. We have now again all our values, but after we transformed it using the method strip together with the function map, which gives us at the end an iterator that we could use in order to loop through. So this is how we do data transformation on the data structure using the help of the map function. Okay, so now again we have our list of letters and we are happy about it. But now sometimes what might happen that maybe our users start entering stuff accidentally, like maybe in number, maybe Boolean values. Now the thing is, I don't want that. I want only to have in my data letters. Now of course you might say, okay, let's start reusing the method remove in order to start removing those unwanted characters. But this is not really something that you want to do because it is wasting time. Each time you have to go and clean your data. Instead, we can build like a filter and we specify the rule on how to filter the data. Like we say, we're gonna keep only alphabetical characters, so only letters. And for that, we use the amazing function, the filter, where it is very similar to the map function. It needs two things. The first thing is the function, and in this scenario, we're gonna use the isAlpha. And the second thing is the iterable, which is our list of letters. So if you give it those two for the filter function, in the output, you will get the same list, but after applying the filter function. And of course, you will not get immediately your list. You will get like an object, a filter object, so that it is not taking a lot of space in the memory. You can use it in order maybe to iterate using the loops. So this is really amazing in order to filter out any bad data from your data structure. So all what you have to do is define your rule and give it your data. And in the output, you will get your clean data. Let's try this out. Again, we have here our clean, nice data, but with the time, let's say that we are getting some weird data in between, like for example, an empty list, or maybe we have a none, so there is no real value, and at the end we have a boolean value like false. Now those informations, none, false, and empty string, they are not true values, they are just falsy values, and I would like to go and remove them by building a filter on top of the list. So in order to do that, we're going to use the help of the filter function, and now we have to specify how to remove the data, and we're gonna say, you know what, go and remove the none. So if you use the none in the filter, you are telling Python just go and remove the falsy data, not only the none, but as well the empty string and the false. It is a little bit confusing, but this is how it works. If you use the none in the filter and then you pass to it the data, the letters, then you will get only clean data. Now let's print it out, and of course in the output you will get the objects. We don't need that. I'm gonna go and do the list. In order to change the data type to normal data, let's try this out. Now look at this, we have again our nice list of letters. We don't have empty, none, false. So that means we have cleaned up our data from the falsy values using the none in the filter. Now there is another method that you could use in the filter where you're gonna get the exact same results. If you go and use, instead of none, you say pool. So with that, I'm saying just keep in the list the true values. So the A, B, C, they are true, the empty, none, and false, they are false. So if you go and execute it, you will get the same results, you will get your clean data. So you could go with the pool or the none. Okay, let's go with another example. Let's say that we have a list of stuff like string values like the SQL, and we have here a number inside the string. Then we have Python, and the last one gonna be as well string of numbers. Now let's say that I would like to make a rule that I accept only letters. So actually other data types like digits and numbers are not allowed. It is very simple. In order to do that, we can use the help of the filters. So we're going to use a method inside the class string. It's exactly like the map function. You define the class and then the method name. So we're going to say is alpha. So this is our rule, and then we're going to give our data. And in order to see the data, what we're going to do, we're going to have a list and print as usual. So let's check this out. Perfect. As you can see, we build a filter to our list, and what is left is only the items that are alphabetical. So we get rid of all those numbers from the list. And of course, my friend, we can build a for loop on top of the output of this function. So for I in filter, I'm just going to go and copy the whole thing and then double point, and we can say print our I. So let's go and try this out. Now look at this. We are iterating through the output of the filter function, and we are getting only the alphabetical values. So after the data got filtered. So as you can see, it is really nice in order to filter bad data from your data structure. Alright, my friends, so with that you have learned how to iterate through our data structure, the list. What is the difference between iterable and iterator? Again, iterable is actually the container, the data structure itself, like the list, and iterator is actually the process, the machine that's gonna produce the next items. So with that you have learned how to do data transformations in your data structure by using the help of the function map, and it is very smart and simple. All what you have to give it is actually two things: the data transformation, the function that should be applied on each item of your list, and you have to give it your list, your data. So once you give it those two things, it's gonna go and do the rest. It's gonna do the magic by transforming and changing all the items and data inside your list. In order to filter your data, you have only one function called filter, and it is very simple and similar to the map. It needs only two things: the rule, the expectation, and your data that should be filtered. And we usually use it in order to clean up the data inside the list, or we want to focus only on specific subset of the data that fulfills a certain condition. So filtering data is something as well very essential in any data project. So if you like this video and you would like to have more free content like this, then support the channel by subscribing, liking, commenting. This really can help the channel to grow and to reach others like you. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.